So today's video is all about soldering in a brand new plumbing valve. And the reason we're soldering is because the original valve is all copper and solder joint. And so we went out and we bought a valve that matches the same kind of installation, so we don't have to do any pipe cutting. Just got to clean all the fittings up and put it back together with a brand new shower valve. This is the way to do it, nice and simple. So the secret, the big secret to doing copper valve installation from an existing valve are this right here. Anyone who doesn't take time to read the instructions on a product nowadays, you're just setting yourself up for failure, guys. Every one of these products that comes out has new design elements, different requirements for how deep it goes in the wall, different techniques for building and removing parts. Every manufacturer is a little different, and every manufacturer is now developing more and more complex, unique scenarios because they're more concerned with the design style than the function, it seems nowadays. So you have to be really careful. Like for instance, this one, this plate gets put on the wall, and then you attach this handle to the cartridge body and you tighten it up real tight, and you create this compression fitting between the handle and the plate and the valve on the other side of the wall. And then the shower functions from here. If you don't get the depth set on this properly, you're not going to have contact with the wall. Or you won't be able to, your hand will be sticking out and it'll look like junk, or you won't get proper contact with the wall. So do your measurements, take great care here, because this is almost a little bit too tricky. It's a little ridiculous. Now, because we've got the water off and it's been draining for quite some time, everything will be nice and dry. So we're going to start off. I checked the tub spout. The connection for the tub spout with this particular kit requires a longer stem on the copper. So I'm going to put in a longer piece of pipe for now. After I'm done on my tile work, I'll measure back and cut it later. So for today, I want to make sure that I get this one removed first, and that's what we're going to start with. So here we go. Just got to add some heat until the solder starts to bubble up. Try not to burn the wood in the wall. I'm just gripping it with my pliers and giving it a bit of a twist. As soon as I see a solder start to melt out of that little spot there, I'll know I'll be good to go. And come on, baby. Here we go, just about. And there we go. Okay. The reason you want to use pliers for this situation is because it gets very hot. Now inside that elbow fitting, it is beautiful. It looks like a solid silver. It's nicely coated. The weld there was done really well. All right, so I've got a piece of copper that's just sitting in my plumbing kit just for such an occasion. Gonna give it a good fresh scratch. Make sure you got some good copper color, and then put on some flux paste on this bad boy. Now, may or may not go in, probably not. Exactly. So what we're going to do is we're going to heat that joint up again. And when that slides in, then we're going to add a little bit of fresh solder. Done. Nice and quick. Take our paste and we're just gonna wipe that in. Okay, there we go. Make sure it's nice and square to the wall. The whole joint now is all heated up. So we'll just let all that seal up nice and square. Beautiful. Now that that's done, it's time to take apart the old valve, the hot and the cold lines. Okay, so now we're gonna take the hot and the cold out. Again, we're just going to heat this up till we see the solder start to drip off, and then I'm just going to hit the elbow in. Hopefully all of this connection will stay intact. Just waiting for the drip. And there it is. Not quite yet. Got to heat the backside. The brass is very thick and it takes a long time to heat up. So when it finally does, there we go, that one's released. Now this side, okay. Whew. So now we're going to heat up this body and we'll pull the bottom off. It's not attached anymore. So we'll separate this. Okay, now that one's gone. So I've got the water of the house off, but you always have a reservoir handy. All right, now I can hold on to that one. Beautiful. So now we're going to take the rest of the valve body off the shower headline, which is still attached to the ceiling there, or up at the top of the wall. So I can actually grab the valve body with my pliers and I can twist it. Or I can just wiggle it. Here we go, see this? Little wiggle up and down. And we're sliding up. There we go. Okay. It's like being a blacksmith in the 1400s, eh? So now we're going to put this valve body in. We're going to start with the hot and the cold and the shower all at the same time, basically. So what we want to do is we want to just prep all of the ports on this valve body. Nice and simple. Now, when it came together in a certain way, and it usually has markings on it. It'll say hot and cold, H and C. This one just has arrows. That means intake. And on this part, it marked cold. So make sure you get it going the right way. I don't know if it'd make a great big difference. I mean, it looks like a pretty mirror image, but I'm not gonna take any chances. I didn't engineer it, so I don't want to reinvent the wheel. All right, now, that part is done. So the other thing we want to do is we want to get flux inside all of these. You'll see that these fittings are designed for a 1/2 inch copper, or you can put compression fittings on. Whenever it's possible to solder or to crimp versus using compression fittings, I prefer to do it. I've had really bad success with service calls and compression fittings over the years. You just never seem to get that thing on tight enough. It always wants to drip in the wall cavity after everything's all finished. Drives you bloody crazy. All right, now, this is most likely a little warm. All right, we just want to give it a little bit of love with the sand cloth, because we don't want to be fighting too hard putting this valve on. Holding in place stick. All right. The idea is I'm going to heat up this one, and I'm going to stick this up here, solder that on, and then we're going to let it cool for just a minute, and then we're going to put the hot and the cold in. So first we want to heat the old pipe up, the old solder connection. Not too much. You don't want to burn it all. And you want to heat the brass, okay? Not the solder. The brass will get hot. It'll in turn melt the solder on the copper above it, and in turn will heat the copper. And so when this brass is hot enough, and there you go. See, it just kind of sucked it right on. Now we just want to get it squared off with the wall. A little bit of paste. There we go. Now, I'm pretty confident that the solder that was on the existing pipe is now sealed inside my brass ring, okay? I put that on there more like a weld, just in case it's still hot. I want it to be able to hold its weight here now. Now, we're gonna hold this now. Take this off, set that aside for now. Now you'll see that the original hot and cold are not in line with the new valve. different manufacturer, right? So we have a different issue going on. And that is fine. What we're going to do is just take my drill and we're going to disengage. It's warm, but it's not too hot. We'll go with one screw at the top for now. Now we're going to line this up. What we're going to do is we're going to add heat to the brass now, okay? And then pop these two hot and cold lines in. And when all the silver disappears, then we know we're ready to go. What I do want to do, make sure that the copper around the outside of that weld is nice and clean. So I can just force the issue with some new solder joint to the brass in the event that the other pipe wasn't in as far as this may go this time. All right, so let's add some heat and we'll suck that all together. There we go. And then this side. Okay. Lovely. Okay. Now, we're going to put a little flux paste on here, and then we're going to add a little bit of fresh soldering. We want to be patient here because we want to make sure that the copper is heated up as well as the brass. So we're waiting for the solder on the existing copper pipe to start to sweat and melt up, and then we'll add a fresh bead. Remember, keep the heat on the brass cartridge so that, because it's thicker, it takes longer to heat up. And you'll know it'll be hot enough to receive this weld as soon as the copper starts to sweat here. There we go. Okay, same on the other side. And this is just to make sure that there's enough solder material inside that joint to seal it up after we've removed and sanded it from the last joint. There, that's step 2. Okay, so now we have the roughen 3/4 of the way. We want to set up our center line before we start attaching things to the wall. So we're going to come down here and measure the screw head on our overflows, 14 5/8. We're going to see, yeah, they were off center. Okay, and the original instruction was off center. That is awesome. And not just a little bit, it was off a full 1/2 inch. Now that's not a lot if you're using subway tile, but if your grout line is anywhere near the center line of these fixtures, one glance you can say, oh, that's not a square. That's just ridiculous. Brilliant. We're going to do this with our pliers. Okay, again, we're going to heat up the valve body and slide this up. There we are. Now we want to square this off. I'm just going by eye. You only have a few seconds here until the solder starts to really set in, so. Oh, perfect. Okay. So now we want to take a little bit of flux around this joint as well. And just throw a little fresh solder up there and make everybody happy. I'm going to hold this up with my knee so it doesn't slide out of the hole. See how it wants to fall down here? Hold it in place, and then use the solder. And then no, now it's crooked. Well, if at first you don't succeed, try again. And that was just to square it off. I lost my alignment. Okay, so check our measurement here as well. 14 5/8. Perfect. Now the wood that I have installed for this valve is too short. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to prop this up this way. A couple pieces of scrap from the truck. And then I'm going to put that to there. And that'll be set to perfect depth behind the shower. Okay, so now that our valve body is all cooled down, we're going to go and install this now. Just looking for my cold marker, which goes on my right side. We'll line this up. There we go. These are all machine threaded. When you're working with machine threads, just put it on reverse. Really easy when you start, and you'll feel it catch. It'll set right in place. That way you can avoid ever having a strip on you and then going back to the store and starting all over again. And when I tighten that valve on to the tile, see how it can be moved around? It'll tighten right in the right spot there for me. I'm just loving this. Time for the blue thing. This is my little 1/2-inch pipe thread with a gasket. When I'm doing my pressure test, just in case, right? You don't want that coming down on your head. It's one thing if the tub fills up with water. It's another thing if the shower starts spewing all over the room. Okay, so let's go get the water turned on, and then we'll see if I know how to solder. Let's pressurize this bad boy. Okay, we're good?
Yeah, we're all good.
Nice. Be right up. Okay, we're all done. We did a water test. Everything's pressurized, no leaks. Hoorah. If you like this kind of content, give us a thumbs up. It's a little old school, but old school is still reliable. All right, and if you have any questions about soldering techniques and products and where to buy them and all that kind of stuff, the tools we use, put them in the comment section below. We'll see you again next time. Don't forget to check us out on Instagram.